One of Them Days is in theaters this weekend, but I just want to make it clear that this movie, One of Them Days, shouldn't be confused with the Limp Bizkit biopic that I'm currently developing, which is called It's Just One of Those Days.
It's just one of those days.
Hello everybody and welcome to my review for One of Them Days, which is a new comedy in theaters this weekend. The movie's directed by Lawrence Lamont and written by Cyrita Singleton, both of whom are veterans of Max's rap shit. It's also the theatrical debut for both of them as writer and director. Singleton also worked with producer Issa Rae on Insecure. Keke Palmer stars as Drew, a Norm's Diner waitress in South LA with aspirations to become a manager and break out of living paycheck to paycheck. SZA plays her roommate Alyssa, a struggling artist, emphasis on the struggling, who puts their apartment at risk when she gives their rent money to her parasite boyfriend Keyshawn, played with peak misplaced confidence by Joshua David Neal, who's really only kept around due to some biological gifts.
What in the Medusa, girl? I almost turned the song.
With the clock ticking until their 6 p.m. eviction, Drew and Alyssa do everything they can to come up with the rent, including a hilarious blood bank trip and a visit to a payday moneylender that also goes hilariously sideways.
Full disclosure, my credit score is currently Are you having a heart attack?
I've never seen a credit score this low.
You got problems.
You guys are old.
Through their misadventures, they also find themselves hunted by neighborhood bully Bernice, played by Aziza Scott, and the local kingpin Lolo, played by Snowfall's Amin Joseph. If I'm being honest, this movie wasn't really on my radar that much. I hadn't seen a whole lot of advertising for it outside of some trailers, I think, before one or two other Sony movies that I saw in theaters. But the reviews, the early reviews for this movie were really strong, and I decided to check it out because if it was as good as the reviews said they were, then it sounded like a pretty good movie. And I'm really glad that I did decide to check it out because One of Them Days had me laughing frequently and throughout the duration of the movie as these two women hit one obstacle after another, some of them self-imposed, some of them not self-imposed. And in addition to being very funny, I think that it was also a really good story about community and friendship. And you know, it doesn't really matter to me that it might not be my community that's being depicted in the film, because that's what good movies are able to do. They take stories that are rooted in something that may not be familiar to you, whether it's a cultural difference or a movie set on an alien planet, and make those stories resonant and universal to anyone who's watching. I'm not sure if you noticed, and kudos to you if you didn't, but I'm a white dude, and I'm not just like kind of white, I'm like white. I sent my 23andMe results out, and all I got back was a blank sheet of white paper. That's how white I am. But that's what I love about this movie. I think it's accurate to say that it is being targeted to black audiences. It's a largely black creative team in front of and behind the camera. And by the way, the creative team, I was looking at the credits, largely also black women, which I like because those are talents that are often pushed to the margins. And it's great to see a mainstream studio comedy from that perspective. But even given that, I think that anybody can sit down and enjoy the film because of the themes that it explores. We're talking about friendship and hopes and dreams, struggle, how to deal with the types of people that we've all encountered in our lives. The bully, the freeloader, the harsh landlord, the bureaucrat who only sees you as a dollar sign. All of these roles are played by actors who I think do a really good job of filling out the rest of the cast beyond the lead roles, including Cat Williams, who plays Lucky, a borderline mystical neighborhood drifter who acts as a sort of spirit guide to our heroines.
If you don't have the money this month, you're not gonna have it next month.
Is he here every day?
This movie and others are a good example of why I often bristle when I get the reaction in a review that I do that I shouldn't review a movie or that my opinion is not valid because the movie wasn't made for me. I get that reaction a lot when I do reviews of kids' movies, animated movies, the Minions, etc. But that's not how good stories work. You can make a movie that is targeted at a particular audience, the way that animation is often targeted at kids, but you can make those movies enjoyable for anybody who wants to watch. When you're targeting an audience, I think that just means that they will appreciate that movie on a deeper level for some reason, whether that's a creative decision to skew a lot of the humor towards a young audience, or in the case of this film, whether it's to root it into a cultural past and a cultural experience that the people that are making the film have lived, that I largely have not lived, but that sets up a situation that I can still enjoy, even if it's not part of my own personal experience. There are even some jokes directed towards the film's white characters, including Maude Apatow as Bethany, the new resident of the girls' apartment complex who sees genuine but naive novelty in their life, where the apartment complex just sees everyday life. Is her character a stereotype of the culturally tone-deaf white person that moves in when gentrification is pending? Sure, but I took the jokes that were made about her character and surrounding her character for what they were, which I saw as good-natured cultural ribbing, which, by the way, the movie also directs towards a lot of the black characters in the movie as well. Having said that, I think that most of the jokes in the movie don't need any kind of cultural reference because they're just funny, and a big part of that lies in the lead performances by Keke Palmer and SZA. I've enjoyed Keke Palmer in quite a few other films, most prominently Jordan Peele's Nope, but this is music star SZA's first film role, and I think that she is a natural comedic talent. The two of them are written to have a dynamic like many actual best friends do in real life. They're two people that are in many ways fundamentally different, but have an almost unspoken devotion to each other that's unbreakable, which I think is a relationship that also transcends barriers of race and gender. In short, I really enjoyed One of Them Days. I think that it was a really funny movie, and it was another reminder for me to keep my ears and my eyes open to what's coming out in theaters, because even if the marketing machine isn't directly targeting me, it could still be a movie that I really like. And generally, I think that we as movie fans, on the studio side, as marketers, and as a culture in general, need to move away from the idea that just because a movie is made about a certain group, whether that's people of color, women, kid-oriented films, international films, that they can only be appreciated by the people that are featured in or are making the movie. Obviously, movies work on multiple levels, or at least the best ones do, and I really don't think it's the intention of any creator to make a movie that only works on one level. And I think we've got to move away from the idea that if a movie isn't categorized as a tentpole 4-quadrant blockbuster, that they then have to be sectioned and cordoned off into their own categories. And if you're thinking of skipping the movie because you haven't heard of it, or you don't think that you'll get the humor, or you don't think it was quote unquote made for you, I would urge you to reconsider, because I think at its core, this is just a really solid comedy. And by the way, it's great to see a studio comedy in theaters like this. It's kind of a throwback to when we used to get movies like this in theaters all the time. And so I think a wellspring of audience support would be great to encourage studios to make more comedies as well. So on my personal scale, I'm giving One of Them Days a rating of it's good, and of the two major releases coming out, this and Wolfman, I would recommend, if you were going to pick one, to go see this one, because it's just flat out funny. I'm still chuckling about some of the jokes in the film. So what do you think? Are you going to be heading out to see One of Them Days this weekend? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, please be sure to subscribe here on the channel. Hit the bell to get notified to make sure you're up on the latest movie news, reviews, box office, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.